Good evening. I'll now call the Finance and Responsible Governance Committee meeting to order. Welcome to the Finance and Responsible Governance Committee meeting. This meeting is being held in person and electronically in accordance with the Municipal Act. For those viewing this evening, members that have a vote at this committee include Councillor Harvey joining online, Mayor Nuttall, Deputy Mayor Thompson, and myself. We have no public meetings, no open delegations, no presentations, no standing items, and no referred items. We move right into item number 6, report advisory committees. There is one advisory committee report to be received, 6.1. That's the report of the International Relations Committee, dated September 5th, 2023. May I have a member of committee put the report on the floor to be received? Okay, thank you. Recognizing Deputy Mayor Thompson. Any questions from members of committee? Seeing none, any questions from non-members of committee? Okay, we'll call the vote. All in favor? Thank you, and that is carried. Didn't read the formal motion. That's okay. I can go right into 7. I still read it out. Okay. The International Relations Committee report dated September 5th, 2023 included one recommendation for the committee's consideration. Investigation, economic trade partnership opportunities. That staff in the Economic and Creative Economy Department investigate the feasibility of a potential economic trade partnership with the state of Michigan and the city's existing international partnerships and sister cities and report back to the International Relations Committee. May I have a member of committee that wishes to put this on the floor? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. The motion is on the floor. Any questions from members of committee? Yes, Mayor Nuttall and then Deputy Mayor Thompson. At your discretion. Yeah.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I have a comment. So I'm new to this committee actually, and I just want to say that, you know, to Councillor Jim Harris, who is the chair of the committee, and just Mayor Nuttall showed up at the last meeting, and it's really taken a different tone where we're looking at the economic side of it, which it was really impressive. And, you know, Councillor Jim Harris has worked tirelessly on this as there's been some changes that have been made. And I'm really excited about a border city or state, sorry, that could potentially be a trading partner and a economic driving to our city and to the Invest Barrie team and their work on this team. So it's more of a comment, and I'm in favor, and I hope everybody else is.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess I just wanted to highlight a couple of things on this. Number one, we've had a request from the province of Ontario representatives in the northern United States that we consider a partnership with a Michigan city or area. And the province itself, I believe, has signed new trade agreements with Michigan amongst other states. So, you know, if we can piggyback on that and also find some funding opportunities to create jobs that benefit both places, I think that that's a big win. Having said all that, I believe that there's going to be some more discussion on this exact subject at the next International Relations Committee. And there's going to be some information brought back by our Director of Economic Development, who's been doing some work on this. So I'm excited to see this move forward. And I think there's a lot of opportunity, but I do await the information being provided by Stephanie and her team.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey, do you have any questions before we move to non-members? Great, thank you. I'll look to, in recognition of Councillor Harris as the chair of the International Committee, is there anything you wish to add further to this, comments or questions?
Thank you. I think the Deputy Mayor and Mayor have covered it. Thank you, though.
Right. Any other non-member of committee wish to make a comment or question? Okay, thank you. We move right into the motion. All in favor? And I have that as carried. We move on to item 7, reports of officers of the corporation. 7.1, the 2023 year-to-date internal audit status report. And the motion is that the 2023 or year-to-date internal audit status report be received as information. Do I have a member of committee that wishes to put this on the floor? Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. The motion is on the floor. Any questions or comments from members of committee? Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Through you, Chair. Just a question to, thank you, sorry. Forgot you were over there. I wasn't expect you here. I apologize. In the municipal world, we race to the bottom in our tendering process. And I noticed, it's always low tender and stuff, which does run some complications. Do you feel to protect the corporation, having maybe a more, I guess, report card on our subcontractors, like an evaluation of completion? Like I remember back, probably maybe not in the city of Barrie, but a lot of municipalities used to carry like an MTO rating, which carried, a report card that allowed companies to continue tendering and stuff. So, because we raced to the bottom, and I always remember there was a complaint that we purchased trucks by lower tender, but they were a lot further away. So service and everything and warranty issues, we never factored in staff time. Or is there anything you see, and I know you're more of the governing body and the oversight, but something like on the protection side of the corporation, that it's not just a race to the bottom, that there's other protections? Because as we've seen with some of our contractors at the race to the bottom, they're no longer our contractors, and we're reducing the service to our residents. So I was just wondering maybe some insight on that. If you feel that there's everything we're doing as a corporation in our tendering and our procurement processes.
And that's to Ms. McGregor.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sorry. I was confused about the seating.
Through you, Chair Kungle, to Council or Deputy Mayor Thompson. Thank you for the question. Certainly our current audit that we're reporting wasn't assessing, and I apologize, I chose a poor seat today. Apparently I'm kind of going around. Wasn't assessing precisely what you're getting at. The city certainly has robust policies and procedures in place to ensure best value and that appropriate procurement practices are followed. Our current audit assessed whether we're in compliance with our own bylaw. So that really was the focus of the work that we did today. We did have some opportunities to address some ways that effectiveness in procurement could be improved as well. And those are in the recommendations to management. But perhaps I'll ask our treasurer, Mr. Miller, if there's anything else that you'd like to add to that as well.
Through you, I guess, Chair Kung, to Deputy Mayor Thompson. Great question, and thanks for it. I would first of all say we don't use just the lowest bid. It's a combination of lowest bid and evaluated specifications, services that are provided with vehicles and that sort of thing. So it's not just a one lowest bid, that's it. No, nothing else is considered. The intent of the policy of our bylaw is to get best value for the taxpayers. And there's different ways of how you evaluate that and how you define it, but that is the ultimate goal. While we are compliant with, Mayor Nuttall mentioned trade agreements with Michigan states, but federal and provincial trade agreements, we have to be compliant as to what contracts that have been signed to make sure that it's fair and open and that all bidders can bid. But I would just emphasize it's not all lowest bid. It's a combination.
Maybe just to follow up. So in the procurement process, and if we sent something to tender and we received, I guess, low, and it had exceeded the budget, do we have a practice where we would then cancel it, retender it, reshift equipment? Because we've noticed, like, snow removal, waste, where the prices have ballooned, due to a lot of factors, nothing, staff, insurance, fuels, all that. So, but sometimes it's the way the procurement is written that eliminates competition in some, scenarios where we don't have always the maximum amount of bidders, which are we truly getting value? And I was just wondering if we set out a budget and the tenders come back exceeding it, do we have a policy that we would possibly cancel and rewrite the policy to stay within the budget, or it's just the lowest tender, like out of the bidders that we received?
Again, great question, Deputy Mayor Thompson. So that's almost a budget type question. So we do have a policy where council approves a budget, then staff go out and they procure, if it's snow clearing. If tenders come in way above that, departments have flexibility up to 10% above budget. And that's a council policy. If it's higher than 10%, then generally, yes, they will either, depending on the urgency, they could come back to council and ask council to increase the budget and award it, or we can cancel and re-tender. And that does happen. And you're correct, in the world that we live in today, I think with inflation it's been difficult for departments to determine what is the market rate. And that is one of the benefits of doing a procurement process is, we've learned a lot, and you are opening it up to everyone to try and get that best rate.
Other members of committee? Not seeing any. I do have one, if I may, to you, Mr. Miller, on the comment around staff having discretion around 10%. I am seeing across different governance bodies conversations around, as you review governance policies, the threshold shifting in an upward direction around recognizing shifting market rates. Is 10% still sufficient? Are you finding we're kind of at or always hitting that threshold, even with procurement going out above the scope? And does 10% still suffice, or would council likely see an interest of staff coming forward to increase that amount of permission?
Chairman Kungle, again, great question. The report, the audit that Sarah's team did, they did an audit on low purchases, and some of the recommendations is those low dollar purchases limits aren't high enough. I think the report called out those limits were set in 2013. Everyone knows the last 4 years or 3 years, inflation's gone through the roof. So we are looking at those to bring back an opportunity to look at the low dollar ones just to make it operationally more efficient. To your point about 10%, yes, I think it depends 10% of what. So the gentleman beside me here, he has a lot of big dollar projects, and it's from a financial affordability piece with all the commitments that the city has. I think we have to be careful what that number is, but when we come back with the low dollar one, I think, we can have that conversation with you. I think there's an opportunity there to increase the rates. I think that percentage is just, what's the sweet spot where council's comfortable with, and we don't put a soft side on all the projects, because if every project comes in and they all have flexibility to go above 10%, I might be running back here, say we got to revisit our budget. So that's the challenge I think municipalities are facing.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any non-members of committee have questions or comments? Yes, Mayor Nuttall.
Thank you. Through yourself, Madam Chair, to our auditor. I went through the auditor's report, and it kind of maybe on a go forth. I'm not sure if you actually be able to answer the question right now. Are we able to audit organizations that are receiving money from us as well?
Through you, Chair Kungle, to Mayor Nuttall. A lot of what we can audit and how we can go about things depend on the agreements or contracts that are in place between parties. Where there are rights of audit, then generally, yes, we can exercise those rights of audit, whether it's receiving or paying.
And do we have those agreements in place with the County of Simcoe?
I apologize. I don't think I can answer that. I don't know if.
Could we get a memo back on that, please, if that's okay? Do I need to move a motion asking for, sorry, Dawn? Oh, sorry. I missed that. Madam Chair.
Good afternoon through Councillor Kungal as the chair to Mayor Nuttall. The current agreement does not have a specific right to audit. It has a dispute resolution process. And we would only and also, of course, the more important function of having 4 members of council on the committee. So we don't have a right to audit because of the governance aspect of it. And of course, we would not have a right to audit entities that the county funds directly, even if those were funded with city funds, unless that was, it would have to be directed by the county.
So I, as a investor, I'm able to receive annual financial statements and all of those things, even though I'm not part of the governance of said corporations that I've invested in the past. Are we able to receive those same types of things as investors in services throughout Barrie and area?
Through Councillor Kungal to Mayor Nuttall, that's never been requested of the county before. Whether or not that provision is actually included in the county's agreements with those service providers would determine that. Not being party to those agreements, I don't know what specific provisions they've included for rights to financial statements or any documents to parties other than the county.
So just to qualify that then, we don't currently receive those items. Therefore, we probably can't audit them. And we don't have an agreement in place to be able to audit them. And I'm jumping between meetings here because we're now in finance, but previously we were in a meeting about housing. So hearing different numbers makes me ask questions. So thank you. I appreciate all the responses.
I think the members, if I could add, I think the members of council who sit on county council could, of course, raise and request that information in their role on county council.
I'm one of those.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. And that, I mean, it brings up an interesting comment too, if it's a different level of information we're seeking other than publicly posted audited financials annually, but at what degree specific to the funding we have around how the discretion on which it's used. So that would be great information if it's able to be required to come back. Last call, any non-members or members of council? Yes, Councillor Corser.
I guess through you, Chair Kungal, to Ms. Alpine. I'm assuming that that same arrangement stands with Barrie Police Services as well.
Through you, Councillor Kungal, to Councillor Corser, the Barrie Police Service and Mr. Miller will correct me if I'm wrong, is included as part of our auditing, the city's audit, as one of our boards. So we already received that information through our own audit.
Thank you.
Any follow-up? You're good. Any other comments or questions, or I'll move the motion? Thank you for the discussion. So we are calling the vote. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Item 8, items for discussion. We're at investigation to allow for resident waterfront parking pass holders to use the EV charging stations at the marina with no additional fee. This is specific to a motion for discussion that staff in the Transit and Parking Strategy Department investigate the feasibility of extending the resident waterfront parking permit to include the designated electric vehicle charging stations at the marina parking lot, provided that the vehicle is being charged while in the spot, the vehicle owner be present, and once fully charged, the vehicle will need to be moved or subject to parking costs or fines. This is identified by Councillor Nixon, supported by Councillor Morales. Does a member of the committee wish to put the motion on the floor? Yes, Mayor Nuttall, the motion is on the floor. I'll look first to questions or comments from members of committee. I've got Mayor Nuttall, then Councillor Harvey. Okay.
Gary, I stole it from you because you're not here and you texted me about it. So I just want you to know that. I had a meeting with some residents with Councillor Nixon, and there were some concerns about the cost of charging one's vehicle, not because of the cost of the charge into the vehicle, but because of the cost of the parking at the waterfront while charging the vehicle. And the communication was essentially that it was cost prohibitive at this point versus going to another station, or I guess they could choose to pay far above market values prices in order to charge their vehicle. My immediate response, and actually my response even now, is that if our goal is to encourage this down at the waterfront, which this was approved by a previous council, not this one, then the cost should probably fall in line with what the market rates are at other locations. Having said that, what I wouldn't want to see is an EV vehicle pulling up and using it as an excuse to have free parking instead of paying their way. So for me, what I would like to see in this feasibility is something that shows that, number one, that the cost isn't, stopping people from using it. But number two, that we have a way that when a vehicle is fully charged, to know that they are now not charging their vehicle, and they are in fact taking free parking. And without having both of those sides dealt with, I think that it becomes difficult for us to make a change on this specific issue. And I communicate that to both of the councillors, but I want to communicate publicly. That's what I would be looking for back from our team when they're investigating the feasibility.
Councillor Harvey, do you have any additions?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Kungle, and thank you for taking my my seat there tonight, because it is a little difficult to chair the meeting by Zoom because you guys look like ants on the screen, and I wouldn't be able to see hands going up. Question to staff, probably Mr. Hughes. When it comes to these chargers and obviously a few other locations around the downtown core, who is paying for the hydro at these chargers?
I'll connect. May I redirect that to Mr. Irenaeus Sundarin, please?
Through you, Chair Kungle, to Councillor Harvey. Currently, those hydro charges are being paid by the operations department under the parks budget.
Okay, thank you. So essentially it's being paid by the city, which obviously is the taxpayer, correct?
That would be correct.
Great, thank you. And one more follow-up question. I already know the answer to this. It's just I am looking for the answer to come out publicly, and that's why I was looking for Mr. Hughes. I understand that your department is currently looking at the feasibility of all of these EV charging stations that are free right now in a go forward basis, and that report is going to be forthcoming by the end of the year. Is that correct?
May I redirect that to Ms. McAlpine?
Thank you, Councillor Kungle, and through you to Councillor Harvey. The Corporate Facilities Department is reviewing the EV charging stations and will be reporting back. The intent is to report back before the end of the year.
Okay, great. Thank you. And with that being said, with staff already looking at this as in its totality, opposed to just this one location, I struggle to throw another staff report and investigation at them that indirectly involves the same issue. And I really struggle that, like back in 2017, because this got approved by 2 councils ago, to be able to get the chargers installed by Tesla, the BIA stepped up and they covered the the hydro for a 2-year period, but then obviously the pandemic hit, and then the city's taken over from there. Having the taxpayers pay for people charging their cars, I maybe it worked in 2017, but in 2023 and now into 2024 next year, I have a hard time supporting that unless we plan on opening gas stations that are going to start giving people free gasoline too. The whole idea was to bring tourists into the downtown for short periods of time, whereas this is, from what I understand, being asked by some condo owners who live across the street from this location, who are going to then take up these spots on a daily basis, I suspect, for 4 to 5 hours at a time. And I just don't see the feasibility in doing that, especially in a marina lot that we've already got a lack of parking, and we're already having a surcharge for our marina users who pay an additional $100 a year to be able to use that lot. So with all that being said, I just have difficulty in supporting it. And I do look forward to seeing the staff report that comes back in regards to all of our downtown charging locations, because this actually could be another revenue stream for the city too, by subleasing out these locations to third-party EV charging companies who will then charge a nominal fee to be able to charge your cars. But I will leave my comments at that. But with the other staff report that is due by the end of the year, I can't support this this item for discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Any members, non-members of committee? I see Councillor Morales.
Thank you, Acting Chair Kungle. I just want to just clarify some information. I'm trying to find the letter digitally. I saw it in my office in paper the other day. The Downtown Barrie BIA back in the, and you are correct, Councillor Harvey, 2 councils ago, committed to paying for the electricity for 5 years. You make a great point. I don't know if something changed the pandemic, so I'm just going to go around the horseshoe. Is there a staff member that can confirm if they paid their full 5 years that they committed to, or something else happened? And I see Ms. McAlpine's microphone turned on. Through you, Acting Chair Kungle.
Through Councillor Kungle to Councillor Morales, the BIA had only committed to a maximum of 2 years and has not provided any funding since COVID, as Councillor Harvey had confirmed earlier today.
Okay, perfect. Even worse than I thought. This is why you ask questions. I'll find that letter. It's my understanding the letter's at 5 years, which actually makes this situation even worse. But thank you for the answer, Ms. McAlpine. These stations, through your Acting Chair Kungle, we would have not gotten these stations had we not kind of made that commitment. There was a lot of sentiment of pay your own way. But as you know, governments do incentives for heat pumps, for windows, for gardening, and they do taxes for other things. And that this was one of those things that at that time, the council, at the end of the day, voted to say yes, and the charging stations went to Barrie instead of Aurelia. And the cost of the stations plus installation plus cost of ripping up concrete, et cetera, was about over $250,000 at no cost to the taxpayer there. I do share Councillor Harvey and everyone else's concerns though about operations moving forward. We have them. By the way, Tesla wanted to keep ownership of stations, and part of the renegotiation was we now own the stations. We could, if we wanted, like take away the Tesla ones and put generic ones. But that's why they provided different ratios. So it was something that needed to get done. That said, I do agree moving forward, especially with federal government targets, they're moving. I think the UK wants 30% uptake by 2030. Canada's a little bit less than that, but we're going to get to a point where we don't have to subsidize this anymore, and we can move towards charging the appropriate fee. So I actually kind of agree with Councillor Harvey. There may not be a need to do this separately, because if we're doing that comprehensive review, and I actually learned my lesson the hard way, because the bike lane report on affordability is very similar than the one Councillor Riepma asked for Grove and Duckworth, yet there's 2 different reports on 2 different committees. So if we can streamline this one into one, I don't see an issue with that.
Thank you. Councillor Morales, to you, Mayor Nuttall.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, the one piece I missed out, and to Councillor Harvey's point, the residents did not offer, but said it would be acceptable to them to cover the cost of what a normal charging station would be. It wasn't that they wanted it for free. I think that they didn't want to pay, I think it was about 5 times the price for it. And I think one of the difficult positions we're in here is you have existing buildings that don't have the infrastructure for today's fleet, right? And you know, those are big bites those condo corporations are going to have to make. If we have EV chargers sitting there unused, then let's find a way to make it fair for the user and fair for the residents of the city of Barrie, the taxpayers and renters who are covering the costs right now. So to Councillor Morales's point, I could talk with my hands. Can you tell Councillor Harris? To Councillor Morales's point, perhaps this motion should be changed. This item for discussion should actually be amended to, rather than asking for a feasibility report, rather ask for, as part of the report that's coming back, this be considered. And so I'll ask our clerk, because I think I'd like to put a friendly to my own movement here to consolidate that.
Through you, Chair Kungle, to Mayor Nuttall. I just think that we just kind of tidy up the beginning of it, that that staff has part of the report back on the EV stations, include investigating the feasibility of extending, and then we'll just leave it at that, just from the beginning. We'll just change the beginning of the paragraph.
And is there some language that we could add in that would search for a zero net cost to the taxpayer?
We could add that to the end, including a zero net cost to the taxpayer. Yeah.
Councillor Harvey, would that kind of align with where you were going there?
I guess I don't want to put words in Mr. Pugh's mouth, but from what I gather from my conversations with him about this matter, it was going to be a fulsome review, and they were going to most likely be coming back with something very different than the current setup. So I'll be quite honest with you. I don't even know if we need to get as granular as what this item for discussion is, and just wait for their staff report to come back, because from what I understand, their staff report is going to include exactly this particular scenario when it comes to moving forward with this site, along with the other sites that are free locations right now.
If I may, as we're clarifying maybe amendments or whether or not that's enough direction to staff, may I ask a question of Ms. McAlpine? If you need direction formally through an amendment of this motion, or is there enough direction through this dialogue around the scope of what we'd like to have included in the feasibility study?
Thank you, Chair Kungle. I believe our report will be comprehensive enough to address this. However, if it's always helpful if council is seeking particular items to be considered, that is included in actual direction rather than just conversation.
Thank you. So Mayor Nuttall, do I have an amendment that you'd like to put on the floor to this motion?
Sure, I'll consider it a friendly to my motion.
Okay, and I'm looking to the clerk. So we are adding language that identifies that the Transit and Parking Strategy Department include an investigation of the feasibility. We continue with that motion, and we are also adding a scope to identify that there's zero net cost to the taxpayer. Ms. Cook.
Just a point of clarification, it should read at the beginning that is part of the comprehensive report coming back concerning EV stations. So it's not 2 separate staff reports, it's just all coming back as one staff report.
Yes, thank you for that clarification.
welcome.
Is everyone clear? Yes, Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Kungle. Just a point of clarification, because the wording on this only specifies Transit and Parking Strategy Department, whereas I don't believe Mr. Pugh's department falls under that. I don't know if Ms. McAlpine can clarify that, because I was under the assumption that this was not necessarily just a parking thing, and it was going to be obviously from the facility side of things, because they're the ones doing all the maintenance on these current locations right now.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Ms. McAlpine, do you need other revisions to clarify direction of this?
Councillor Kungal, through you to Councillor Harvey. Given that the comprehensive review is being conducted by corporate facilities, I don't believe there's actually an amendment required to the direction, as we would consult with transit and parking related to the impacts from their perspective during that comprehensive review.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Any follow-up, Councillor Harvey? That's okay. Okay, I'll look for final comments. Councillor Morales?
Thank you, Acting Chair Congo. Very quickly, I'd like to clarify when I'm wrong. I found the letter. They committed to looking into paying for it, and I found the letter. Maybe 5 years is what was in my heart, but it is not what is in writing. That said, I found a letter that said that they did send a $2,000 check. Doesn't make it any better, but it's there. Everyone has a copy of it, and we'll figure it out. And then also, just for clarity, this is changing nothing of what everyone said. For context purposes, the cost of the electricity in 2018 was $2,308 for all stations. I understand usage has gone up with cars and costs have gone up. So I'm not trying to like say, hey, it's not a lot of money, but for context, everybody has a copy of this thread and we can look at that wholesomely. But I was wrong on that one.
Thank you, Councillor Morales. Final call and comments. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Chair Congo. Yeah, I just want to clarify or just point out that the kind of the whole purpose of this motion was not just about allowing people in condos close by to be able to charge for free. There'll be also a lot of people that are visiting the waterfront, that have waterfront passes, that have EVs, that might like to get them charged while they're at the beach. But I never heard, as Mayor Nuttall stated, that the people who brought this forward, they've got no issue with paying for hydro. If that's the way we go, I'm sure they don't have a problem with that, and that's fine. It's more about utilization. I think there's 8 or 9 charging units there, and this will obviously come out in the report, the utilization. But I made a point of driving by at least a dozen times over a couple of weeks when this came up, and I never saw more than 2 or 3 vehicles in there. So if we're going to have 9 stations and there's 6 or 7 empty parking spots, that let's use them, and that's that. But I look forward to hearing the report, and however it comes out, I'll be looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we call the vote, so there's been a friendly amendment. So the intent is that the scope of this motion is included into what's coming back as part of a comprehensive report that council is expecting from staff by the end of the year. Okay, all in favor? Okay, and that carries. Oh, sorry. Thank you. That was to approve the motion as amended. Now to approve the motion as amended. Again, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And we are good. Right, Deputy Mayor Thompson? I got you there. Okay. Thank you. So that is carried. That brings us to our adjournment. This concludes the Finance and Responsible Governance Committee meeting. General Committee will begin at 7 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned at, I have 6:45.